Today I want to talk about the power of exceeding expectations. In today's fast-paced world, with so many people interconnected so easily through social media and our incredible digital landscape, it's very easy for people to get lost in the shuffle. And it's becoming more and more difficult to stand out. One of the greatest ways I know to stand out from your competition is to exceed expectations. One example of this I'm sure you've heard is under-promising and over-delivering. Now you may wonder, what does this have to do with multifamily real estate investing? I'll tell you everything. When you're out there developing relationships with real estate brokers, investors, lenders, and other people in the business, exceeding their expectations sets you apart from everyone else. Remember, you're developing lifelong, potentially very lucrative relationships for your future. Do you think it's going to help you on this path to success if you happen to stand out because you do more than is expected? Who do you think people want to deal with? The person that does the bare minimum just to get the job done, or the person that wows them? I know it's common sense, but if you have a job, for example, who at your job usually gets promoted? The person that just goes through the day and does what they have to do, or that person that's always there to help other people, always does more than they have to do? It's pretty obvious. Always go above and beyond, my friend. For those of you that work at a job, work at the level of pay that you want, not where you're being paid at, and you'll ultimately get there. Let me give you a nice example of going above and beyond and exceeding expectations. Many of you that listen to my podcast likely heard my interview with the great sales legend Tom Hopkins. You know, he talked about the importance of a personal touch, how handwritten notes really had become a thing of the past. And a few days after I interviewed Mr. Hopkins, I was surprised and, frankly delighted to get a handwritten thank you note from him. Since then, I've gotten handwritten thank you notes from several of you that I've spoken with on the phone. Now that's an example of what I'm talking about. Taking the time to just go a little above and beyond what's expected, adding value to the people you meet. If you do that, you're going to be valued. When you establish a new relationship, think to yourself, how can I add value to this person? What can I do to help them? If you go through life this way, adding value to the people you meet, your life, your world, your reach, it expands. I'll give you another very simple example. I just went to a training boot camp for thought leaders, and I happen to be a very fast typist, and I take very good notes. I mind map everything, and I split it all out, and then I download all that to a Word document, and I end up with very comprehensive notes, mainly because, frankly, I don't have the greatest memory. And what I did at that event was I told everybody that I met that if they emailed me, I'd be happy to give them a copy of my typed up notes to help them retain all the information we learned. As a result of that extra effort and then sending them all those notes last week, I started relationships with a few dozen people, and I've added value to their lives. You know the old adage, what you give comes back to you tenfold? Well, I'm here to tell you it's absolutely the truth. So back to exceeding expectations. What can you do in your interactions with the people you meet and the people you do business with that will exceed their expectations? You need to always be thinking about this so that you set yourself apart. How can you do it just a little bit better? I got the pleasure of meeting Tony Hsieh, the CEO of Zappos, at a Tony Robbins Business Mastery event. Now, Zappos is known around the world for their customer service and exceeding expectations. Tony Hsieh told me a story about, he was at a party in San Francisco, and it was late at night, and he was overhearing these women who were slightly inebriated talking about his company, Zappos. And they were discussing wanting to order a pizza, of all things. And now, Zappos sells shoes, but they wanted to order a pizza. And one woman said to the other, I'm going to call my rep at Zappos. And they both started laughing. And so the one actually called her rep at Zappos and told her she wanted a pizza. And Tony found out later by listening to the recording, because they record their calls, that the rep laughed when she heard that. And when asked about the pizza, she said, you're aware we sell shoes, right? And then the rep immediately said, let me see what I can do. Where are you and what type of pizza do you want? And I'm sure you can imagine the rest of the story. The rep who had the lady's credit card on file found a local pizza spot, had a pizza delivered to this woman. Now, guys, that is exceeding expectations. Let me give you a personal example from me. I love to go offshore fishing. As you can see, I live on the water here, and back years ago when I was a little green regarding fishing and boating in general, didn't really know what I was doing. I purchased these very expensive Star brand fishing rods. And I had 3 of them up on my boat in my pole holders. They call them Top Guns, up on top of my cover on the boat. And I went underneath a very low bridge. The bridge literally broke off all three of the pole tips of my three very expensive poles. These poles each cost like $350 to $500. I was not a happy camper. But I called Star Rods and they asked me to send the poles in, which I did. And you can imagine my surprise when a couple weeks later I got three brand new poles back from them. So you can imagine I am a Star Rods customer for life because they massively exceeded my expectations. Let me give you one more example specific to the multifamily business. Maybe you heard my interview with Vinny Chopra. This man has syndicated multiple million-dollar deals, happens to be just a wonderful guy with a very kind heart. He's also very successful. Most real estate syndicators out there, to stay connected to the investors that invest in their deals, will have, maybe a regular conference call or maybe send an email to investors, to their investors. But Vinny takes it to a whole nother level. Vinny creates a PowerPoint every month or so and has an online webinar for his investors to tell them exactly what's going on with their investments. He records it, has it available if anybody missed that call. Now that's a lot of extra work, but that's definitely called exceeding expectations. So again, what can you do to set yourself apart? How can you give more than is expected? How can you stand out from all the other real estate investors out there and cause the people that matter to not just notice you, but actively seek you out and want to do business with you? The answer is exceed their expectations. I'm Rod Khleif, and I'm wishing you incredible passion and massive success in your business and in your life.